Hello, I'm Chris Williams from Read Comics, They're Bad For You. Or if you're watching this on my BitChute channel, Comic Freak, welcome. Today we're going to be reviewing Swmpthing Episode 3. We start off in the swamp with Abby Arcane and her best male friend. Someone she's known since she was a kid when she was growing up in Maris, Louisiana. Matt Cable. They talk with each other about how Abby saw this weird creature, this green monster, and then Matt's mother comes along, who's the sheriff of Maris. Abby goes on to say that they should be looking out for some big creature. Later, and of course the sheriff kind of disregards her opinion. Later on, we come to Alec Holland. Well, Swampthing dreaming about being Alec Holland. And he's dreaming about the man he had killed in the last episode. He dreams that the man is still alive and he's Alec Holland again. And he meets the man at an open fire where the man was having some fun drinking some beers. The man reminds Alec Holland that he was actually the guy who killed him. And he screams that he's coming back for Alec Holland, for Swampthing. This, of course, wakes Alec Holland up, and he wakes up and he screams. Swampthing looks at the remains of the man he killed. He sadly looks down at it, even though he doesn't really notice much about it. But as he walks away, we see a bunch of vermin and insects begin to crawl over the body. They even start to bring the different pieces of the man back together. And we begin to see something. They're reforming him. Almost as if they have a will of their own. It's just like in Swampthing's dream. The man is coming back from the dead. Even though he should probably maybe blame Avery Sunderland, since he was the man who hired him to go out there and put those devices in the water. Now, as we can see here, this is obviously all a reference to the rot, a force of nature that opposes, or both opposes and is on the same level as the green, if you know anything about Swampthing. And they pretty much, either it's chosen him as its champion, or someone who controls the rot has decided to turn this man into its avatar for its, wrath against Swampthing for whatever reason. And it's a really good special effects here. I'm really enjoying it. I mean, I've seen better, but this is good. Later on, we see the sheriff and her son, Matt. They talk about how Matt is once again just being a fawning acolyte of Abby Arcane. And his mother tells Matt that she doesn't want to see him hurt again for chasing after a woman who pretty much doesn't even know that he's alive. I mean, Abby knows that Matt is alive and breathing. She just has no idea about his feelings for her. And as we go over this, we see them continuing, we see her continuing to mother her son, telling him that he should just grow up and not bother with Abby, even though he says that he can't just do that. Because he's in love with Abby Arcane. And this shows some character development, and we see that she really loves her son, and that these developments will play a pivotal part in the plot in the future episodes of this series. Later on, Abby's friend and colleague who came with her to Maris, Louisiana, he also comes down with the same disease that the girl now has. For some odd reason, even though they were taking precautions probably against the disease, he still somehow gets the disease, and you can see pieces of plant matter starting to intertwine and grow out of his skin. And it looks rather painful, I gotta say. The little girl got off easier than this guy. I mean, he looks like he's turning into a shrub. I mean, the girl looks fine. Why isn't she? And she's had it longer. She should be far worse. I guess because maybe he at first didn't really think anything of the symptoms and thought he might have been a cold. But still, he ends up getting sick, and now he's turning into, well, he's being consumed by plants. And all Abby can do is start looking for information, and she goes out to see Alec Holland's lab. She could look for more information on the disease. We then switch over to Jason Woodrue and his wife. Jason is worried about his wife because apparently she's coming down with early stage Alzheimer's, or another mental disease that causes deterioration of the memory, faculties, and the personality of the person. Because she ends up mentioning stuff that's already happened earlier in the series, but she comes across like she doesn't remember actually doing it. Now he's worried that if she loses her, he'll have no reason to have anything to do with the world at all anymore. And he says he's going to find a cure for her. And we really see that he really loves his wife. And it's a sweet part of the episode, and you also see that it kind of later sets him up to become a villain, because he's willing, probably like other characters in the series, to do whatever it takes to save his loved one. Abby, of course, is now at Alec Holland's swamp lab. She's looking around. She's checking everything around her, looking for information on both the creature she saw, as well as more information on the disease that's currently killing people in town. She hopes to get back soon enough to save her friend. But she begins to hear something and feel something around here. It's totally dark, but she ends up stepping on bugs. The place is now swarming for some odd reason with insects. Far more for any place that has only been, well, abandoned for a few days. And she looks around, she starts screaming, and she sees something through a window. Something bad looking, something decrepit and rotten. It begins to break its way into the laboratory, and all Abby can do is scream and run as she tries to get out of there. But she's dodging insects as they try and crawl up her body. Here we can see the guy. It's the thug who died in the last episode. Only now his eyeballs and his mouth are covered in maggots. He's become an undead abomination, being controlled by the rot. I say that because later on the episode, well, just in a moment, Swampthing bursts onto the scene and saves Abby. And then he and this abomination of a man fight. Well, not much of a fight. He bashes him down. Abby ends up even putting an axe into the guy's back, but it has no effect because the guy is a zombie. But this causes Swampthing to go full force and punch him and bash him across the room. At this point, the man is pretty much defeated, and Swampthing rests his hand on him, and he asks whatever force is controlling him to release him. And this is how this ends. The man dies again, and his body dissolves into goo. And he says that he's happy that he was able to save her, and he was about to leave, but then Abby says, "You're Alec, aren't you?" Well, later on, we switch over to Avery Sunderland's accountant. He's arrived home, and he worries about something because something isn't right in his house. Avery Sunderland is inside it, actually. He comes out and he begins to talk up his accountant, while his accountant is rather kind of perturbed and fearful that Avery has broken into his house. But then it becomes quite evident why Avery's there. He grabs a fire poker from the fireplace, and he commences to kill his accountant. He does that because he figures by killing him, it'll give him some time with the bank, because they're going to be trying to reorganize on his finances. And this does give him a few more days or weeks with his money that otherwise he wouldn't have had. And this is how the episode pretty much ends, with both Avery Sunderland becoming a murderer, as well as Abby Arcane learning, yes, indeed, that the creature that she encountered was indeed Alec Holland. Now, this episode was good. I really enjoyed it. And I would say that you should enjoy it too if you have the chance to watch Swamp Thing. And remember, if you like this review, Subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed. If you're watching my videos but you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to me on both my YouTube channel, Read Comics That Are Bad For You, as well as Comic Freak on BitChute. Now hit that bell and hit that like button and leave some comments down below. And remember, keep checking back for more information on my own upcoming independent comic book, Scumdogs. That's it for me today. I'll be back again tomorrow with another video or review.